What's going on, everyone? Today, 59% of the S&P 500 popped up in the green, and boy, do we have a crazy, crazy day ahead of us. Trump is set to deploy his global tariffs, which have the potential to send tariff rates to the highest level we've seen since the 1800s. Investors are going all in on cable news stocks as ticker symbol NMAX is up 1,700% in 2 days. Tesla reports important deliveries data tomorrow. This was the worst quarter since 2022 for U.S. stocks, and what happens tomorrow with this whole tariff uncertainty situation will be a very big deal going forward, and it'll present a lot of opportunities. So make sure to stick with us all the way until the end today. We have a lot to cover, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, the overall market today was actually ended up in the green once again. I think surprising traders this week. A lot of people had a lot of fear heading into this week with all the tariff updates coming tomorrow. But as we can see, the SPY did actually close a little bit higher, ending the day up 0.28%. And the heat map really wasn't too bad. A lot of the tech stocks like Microsoft, Google, and Meta, even Nvidia, did pretty well up into the green, with Tesla tagging along as well. But Mike, I know Newsmax really stole the headlines today, up another 179%. This stock was $14 whenever it IPO'd. It hit highs here at the end of the day, all the way up around $264, almost $265. I mean, this is an insane run by Newsmax, over 1,700%. I can't believe it. Now, this is a pretty crazy news company, right? We've been hearing about this one over the past couple of years, especially as they've started to become a lot more popular. But it's just insane to see that people are still gravitating towards the news like this, right? It's weird to say that like a cable company like this is garnering so much attention.
Yeah, it crossed over the $20 billion market cap level today, which was crazy to see. They went from $14 a share all the way up to $254 a share, and there's more momentum right here than basically anywhere else in the market. I know we covered this ticker in yesterday's video, and I saw some people did very well with it. But Tom, as we look at this one for tomorrow, what are the key levels to watch? Because it is just going insane.
Yeah, it really is, and I think $300 coming up tomorrow is going to be first on my mind. I'm definitely going to be watching 280 before we get there, but I will say this stock reacted pretty good today, right around $200 as well early on this morning, so I would expect as we get towards $300 for that to at least hold up for a little while as some resistance, and it might not hold up forever, but I do expect at least some type of reaction or something along those lines at 300, as long as it doesn't gap above it in pre-market, right? That's the pretty crazy thing with this stock. You can see these insane pre-market gaps, but if we do see this stock fall back down, I also think that 200 would be an amazing support to watch for. There was a lot of reaction around that level today as well.
Sounds good. And with tickers like these ones and just setups in general, it's important to understand the nature of the setup. You know, at the end of the day, when you have a stock that went from $14 a share up to $254 a share in, let's say, 2 days, that is an insane move. And no one knows where this stock is going to top out at. You know, this could be the top, but the top could also be at $400 or $500 a share, or, you know, no one truly knows. So with setups like this one, you have to understand that, you know, one, it's important to follow the money, but above anything else, you have to protect yourself. Like, if you don't set a stop loss here, you will get ran over. So either way, keep NMAX close on watch. This stock is certainly in play, and there are some big, powerful moves here.
There really is, and there was even another stock that recently IPO'd, which is CoreWeave, ticker symbol CRWV. This stock went insane today as well, up 41%. This stock IPO'd last Friday, and the interesting thing about this company, they're an AI cloud company, and they rent out access to NVIDIA's GPUs to other technology companies, which is very interesting. This was a highly anticipated IPO, and this one ended up ripping up today, of all things. It took a couple days to get going. Not as hot as Newsmax, but definitely one that I wanted to throw out there for you guys, because whenever something is rising as much as this one is, it's another one to keep on the radar, and I love the way it closed up around highs as well.
Yeah, rising tide certainly lifts all boats, especially with IPO setups. So either way, keep these ones close on watch. But Tom, shifting into the news that everyone just can't wait to hear about, what is going on with this tariff situation? I know everyone is on the edge of their seats here.
Yeah, everybody's really waiting for these tariff updates to come tomorrow, April 2nd. Trump has said before he didn't want to do it on April 1st because he thought people would think it was a joke or something. And I don't know if you guys saw this today. There was a lot of fake headlines going out there. Obviously, a lot of April Fool's jokes about like Trump canceling the tariffs and stuff. I just want to say that is not true. If you guys saw that today, definitely keep that in mind today. You might see some wild headlines as April 1st, but everybody's awaiting tomorrow, Mike. It's going to be April 2nd, where Trump's been talking about these potential reciprocal tariffs coming tomorrow. And, you know, there's been a couple things that they've mentioned. Even this morning, there were new updates to this where they talked about even looking at like 20% tariffs on all imports, maybe instead of going the reciprocal country to country approach. I think that I'm definitely leaning more towards the reciprocal approach, but at 4 p.m. Eastern time is when this event is going to be happening tomorrow. Trump's calling it the Make America Wealthy Again event in the Rose Garden at the White House. So gonna be a huge event. All eyes are on this, Mike, and honestly, everything's up in the air. There's not enough information out there.
That's the thing. No one actually knows what's going to happen. And here's the thing, like, depending on the route Trump ends up taking, things can get like really crazy really quickly. As we can see by looking at this chart here, you know, depending on how this scenario ends up playing out, we can potentially see tariff rates rise to the highest levels since the 1800s, which is just crazy to think about. And because no one actually knows what's going to happen, there has been a massive increase in uncertainty right now. We could see that uncertainty related to trade policy is at the highest level even since COVID and the original Trump trade war from 2018 and like even to like 2019. So what a time to be a trader.
It definitely is, and it kind of blows my mind how high the uncertainty has become in the short term. Whenever you look at all these previous events that really rock the market, and then you see like right now, it's like, okay, the SPY pulled back 10%, we're doing some tariffs, but it's not something that hasn't been done before, right? Like Trump did a lot of these tariffs in the past, and I would have thought maybe this time traders would have expected it a little bit more, right? But at the end of the day, there is a lot of uncertainty out there, and the market is definitely getting hit by it.
And that's a good thing, though, that there's uncertainty for traders, because if everyone knew exactly what was going to happen and it was just like a nice, smooth, like pre-planned route, then, you know, we wouldn't see like the big moves that we are currently seeing in the markets. And while it can certainly hurt in like a short-term sense, it'll certainly bring on a lot of opportunity in multiple different senses. Because if we do see like a full-fledged like market sell-off and crash, of course, there will be a ton of opportunities playing the bear side, but even more exciting, there'll be a ton of buy the dip opportunities. So it is kind of a blessing in disguise in that sense. But for tomorrow, what I think the most important thing to pay attention to will be is, of course, what Trump says and what the plan actually is, but also what all of these other countries say. I know Canada and Mexico already said that they like have retaliatory measures already planned out, and we have no idea what Europe or anyone else is going to do either. So I think that'll be very important because that'll have a big impact on earnings and just, just honestly, just global trade in general.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, these things are definitely going to be affecting the overall market and global trade. And I do think that the overall market dipping will provide some good opportunities. And, you know, we do actually have some market stats here that do show some of these opportunities, especially like when you start to get towards like 3 months and 6 months on this chart, you start to see some really good percentages. Like on the 6 months, we're talking being green 100% of the time. On the 3 months, being green 87% of the time. That's pretty good. And if we look at a lot of like these 3 month and 6 month numbers, a lot of them are pretty high. Like the most recent one from March 31st of 2020 was 19% on the 3 month there and 29% on the 6 month. And when you go to the 6 month, I mean, there's so many over 10% pushing like 20%. It's kind of mind blowing here, but it does give me some confidence that, you know, if the S&P hits a 1 year high last month and then closes down more than 5%, kind of kind of like what's happening now, we do see like some positive data a few months later.
Yeah, very interesting. Of course, the counter argument for this can always be, well, you don't have Trump starting a global trade war. And, of course, that is certainly a valid counter argument, but it certainly does help to see, reaffirmingly bullish stats like these ones. And I think it mainly goes to reiterate that, the longer your time horizon, the more likely it is you will make money. And also the higher the returns get as well. So certainly keep these stats in mind. But even Tom, like when we look at like some of like the shorter duration like stats, like maybe like 1 or 2 months later, we can see that we do have like a couple really big pops sprinkled in the mix there too. So it'll definitely be a pretty good time for just overall trading, because regardless of direction, there should be some very big moves, which is, the main driving factor behind like any trade opportunity, generally speaking.
Yeah, and the amount of times that's positive, even on like the 1 and 2 month numbers, they're like 73% on 1 month and 67% on the 2 months is definitely a pretty striking number there. And I'll definitely be looking to potentially buy the dip here on the SPY overall. We're seeing a pretty good market dip. Obviously, if the tariffs come in sour and the market doesn't like it, we break these recent lows around 5,500, we might end up seeing the SPX, push down towards like a huge support around $5,400, where we saw a lot of touches in the past. And we'll definitely talk about the SPX and the SPY a little bit more, but that is just something to think about, as the market dips. Have some stocks you're looking at. I know a lot of people are looking at different types of stocks out there. Personally, I'm definitely eyeing up like DraftKings on the dip, even PayPal and a couple others as they're lower. And I'm sure a lot of people are looking at like Nvidia, AMD, and a ton of these tech stocks that have been dropping in price a lot the past few months.
No doubt. Yeah, there's definitely be a lot of great opportunities, and we'll definitely cover more about those in depth as they open themselves up. But looking closer at SPY right now, of course, everyone is watching this basically above everything else with the important news set to drop tomorrow. What are the most important levels to watch, and what are you seeing in terms of the charts?
As far as the SPY goes, there's a major resistance in the short term around 564 to 565. We've seen a lot of hits and touches on the SPY, like right around that range. You could almost even say up towards 566. That $2 range has been pretty major on the S&P 500. And as we start to see it touch there, I am going to be watching for potential rejection back down. Of course, the tariffs tomorrow are going to be extremely important. Today, the SPY peaked out around 562 to 562.50. If we rip above that tomorrow, I'll be watching for those next resistances that I just talked about. And then if those break, I'll be watching towards 570 as we start to break past those levels. But the main thing right now with the SPY is the past 2 trading days, we've actually been seeing a pretty good recovery where we've been seeing higher lows come into play. My big worry tomorrow is that we get a lot of trade fears and we start to break that trend and test the low from this week down around 547. If we end up breaking that low from this week, I think things are going to be extremely bearish, and that'll show that the tide is definitely changing from the past couple of trading days. But the main thing to be aware of is that the momentum can shift tomorrow when those tariffs come out. So have your eyes on a lot of these key supports and definitely watch for those breakdowns as, like, let's just say the craziness starts to occur.
Definitely. And if I had to pick one level for SPY that is more important than anything else, it would certainly be that like low right around 547. Not only is this a key level just from last week, considering it was the low, but if we do see a break below that, it'll just deliver like a big wave of just like fear and just increased selling, which is certainly what the market doesn't want to see. So hopefully we stay above that level, but even if we don't, that's okay. Just adapt and position yourself accordingly. So keep that close on watch. And then, Tom, we also do have a handful of events throughout the rest of the week as well, besides this tariff news.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say the biggest one for tomorrow is going to be the Tesla delivery numbers, which normally come out before the market opens. So definitely be ready for Tesla tomorrow morning. They were actually up 3.59% today. Something that's very interesting about these that I actually didn't know about until I started researching these today is that you can actually bet on Tesla delivery numbers on Kalshi. And it looks like the market's actually pricing in around like a $351,000 forecast right now now. I see analysts are pricing in 377,000, so it definitely wouldn't be good if it came in at what the market's pricing in. So I guess we'll see how it ends up shaking out, but I found that extremely interesting that you could bet on this.
You can now bet on Tesla delivery numbers. Welcome to 2025. So yeah, that's certainly very interesting. Keep a close eye on Tesla tomorrow. These reports normally are pretty important, and we will talk more about this stock as the video goes on. We do have some earnings reports tomorrow, but honestly, nothing crazy. We'll show the list here, but we're basically all clear. So Tom, let's get right into the good stuff, which are some setups and predictions. A stock that is close on watch right now is Rivian. Rivian has been doing pretty well in the short term for multiple reasons. One, they recently spun off their micro-mobility business called Also, which helped them a lot last week, but they have also been benefiting because most of their manufacturing is based in the US, and with all of this rising tariff and trade uncertainty, it definitely helps a US-based manufacturing company like Rivian. On top of that, as we know, Elon Musk has been pretty vocal politically lately, and that has certainly ruffled some feathers. And while some people are pissed off at Elon, they are looking for alternatives, and one of the main ones being Rivian. So long story short, the stock definitely does have some news driving it. It popped up just by under 7% today. It's moving strongly, and it's certainly on the radar for a potential upside continuation tomorrow. But this setup, like every other setup for the next 2 days, you have to be careful with how the news comes out. For example, if breaking news comes out tomorrow and it's related to tariffs or Trump's trade plan, then you have to factor that in. And if the market's crashing, then you probably don't want to be playing upside setups.
Yeah, definitely not, right? I guess the one good thing is that Rivian does have a weak correlation to SPY, so I guess it's not always going to follow the S&P 500, which is good for them. And let's be real here. That daily chart is something else on Rivian. But I do like this trend that it's starting to follow and bounce off of on the daily as well. I think that's a very interesting setup and pattern going on. But with my first setup, I'm looking at Chewy to the upside. I guess the only bad thing about Chewy is that Roaring Kitty talked about it a while ago. But besides that, it is actually bouncing off a pretty good base around $31 here. And I do like the upside move. Now, they are in a bit of a weird industry. They do have a strong correlation to SPY being 0.91%, but, they kind of deliver like pet supplies and health stuff for pets to people's doors. If you haven't heard about Chewy, you're probably living under a rock, but definitely check them out tomorrow. They have a lot of good momentum, and if they continue with this momentum, I will look for a good upside continuation. I really like that they closed at that high of day.
All right. Another stock that is close on watch is IBIT. There was a recent bearish big money play here, and IBIT essentially follows the price of Bitcoin as it is a spot Bitcoin ETF. And as we know, tomorrow's a very important day. Of course, there's a certain probability that the market will rise, and of course, there's a certain probability the market will fall. This is an opportunity in the event we do see a further sell-off. We have been seeing a transition from risk on assets. Basically, we've been seeing a lot of selling not only with the S&P 500, but also Bitcoin and a lot of the other assets that have been doing extremely well over the past few years. So IBIT is certainly on the radar for a potential continuation, of course, depending on how the news plays out tomorrow, but it's certainly on my bearish radar.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup right here with IBIT and Bitcoin, and I will say with the overall setup with IBIT and Bitcoin, I am getting worried on that daily chart. I do not like how they rejected at resistances recently with IBIT around $50, and then even Bitcoin with it rejecting around that $90,000 mark. Thought that was pretty rough. But with my next setup, I'm looking at Tesla to the upside, and with Tesla here, I'm looking at those delivery numbers very, very closely. Now, if the delivery numbers do end up missing tomorrow, obviously we're not going to be playing Tesla up probably, right? But hey, if we do see Tesla have some good delivery numbers and it's able to rip above the high of day today around 278 and then resistance at 280, I will be watching for intraday continuations. I was really eyeing up the Bookmap today, and I noticed between 275 and 280, there is a massive sell wall there. It's not even just one specific level. You can tell tell though that they targeted like pretty much every whole dollar level within that $5 range. Whereas like, let's say you're looking at 260 to 265, obviously not near as many buyers within that range. So pretty insane there to see so many sellers stacked up. If we do end up getting a good breakout there, I will be watching Tesla to the upside. Now there is some actual downside opportunity. Like let's just say that the delivery numbers come in negative and Tesla breaks under 260. That is one big support that I'll be watching for a potential breakdown as well. But I do like the overall setup here on Tesla, and I love the intraday moves. Like today, that 260 hold was awesome, and we talked about that yesterday a ton as being a major level on the Bookmap. It broke above it in pre-market, but held it greatly as support after the market opened there.
Very good to see. So Tesla will certainly be on the radar for tomorrow. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have XYZ to the upside.
Yeah, the changed ticker used to be Square, but if Block can end up breaking out above $56, keep watching it to the upside.
All right, with the next one, we have Intel INTC to the downside.
Yeah, Intel kind of straddled support here. If they break under $21.70, watch them down.
All right, and then with the last one, we have APLD to the upside.
Applied Digital, very nice movement today. If they can break out above $6.15 at that high of day, then watch them up.
Sounds good. So we have these three stocks on the radar for potential continuations tomorrow, if and only if they can break through the levels listed. As always, deploy smart, long-term, sustainable trading habits, have stop losses, follow the money, and of course have a thesis for any trade you ever take. You can learn a lot more about these habits as well as many others for free in the Key Lessons channel of the Stocked Up Discord, so definitely check that out. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $1.7 million big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol INSM. Today, the big money bought the $72.50 strike put options that expire on May 16th of 2025. Like I said, this is a pretty heavy trade coming in at over $1.7 million. INSM has been stuck in a range for quite some time now, and it is weakening in the short term as it fell by over 5% today. These put options are now in the money. They have around a month and a half worth of time to them, so the big money is expecting, a fair move somewhat soon, and this price action has been pretty weak, so certainly keep this one on the radar.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy channel that INSM has pretty much been stuck between. There's been like a lot of price action, pretty much between like $65 and $80 here on the chart, where both ends of that have touched multiple times. And right now it's turning over from the upper end of that range in a pretty harsh way. It's kind of sitting right in the middle of the range right now, testing that previous support. This would be awesome for it to continue turning over. And I could see it, getting well under 70 towards the bottom of that range, like maybe 66. If this does keep happening, that would be awesome for these puts here in the short term. And it's a pretty short term play as well with quite a bit of money, $1.7 million. It's in the money now, and that is a pretty short term play, like I said.
Yeah, so either way, certainly keep it on the radar. It does have potential to move quite a bit. And if you guys are new to the Stocked Up YouTube channel, first of all, welcome. But second of all, consider crushing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day, we cover the most important news, information, chart setups, and important things to know about the stock market in around 20 to 25 minutes or less. And with all of the crazy and new news by the day in this crazy tariff-style stock market, it's more important than ever before to stay informed. So if you like our videos, consider subscribing, and we will see you more often. But we also have to give a giant shout-out to today's member of the day, Juice15 in the Stocked Up trading floor, who had a bunch of great posts today in the profits channel. He showed some awesome profits with some QQQ call options, but as we scroll up, he also had some QQQ put options that did pretty well as well. So huge shout out to you, Juice15. Thank you so much for being a great member of the community, and keep on rolling. Also, if you guys haven't tried Bookmap yet out already. We strongly recommend it. It's like X-ray vision for stocks, and with as crazy and as volatile of a market that we are heading into, it's basically more valuable than ever before. So if you want to try it out, you can save because you're a Stocked Up viewer if you use the link in the description and the comments down below. Definitely check it out. It's awesome. And besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.